You're listening to a Least Important Things miniseries. Dear listener, your mission, if you choose to accept it, is to rewatch every Mission Impossible movie with Luke Ferris and Mike Wynne. Together, you'll investigate everything from Tom Cruise's running stride to the legacy of this spy action franchise. Good luck. This podcast will self-destruct in 30 seconds. I usually just start with the intro, and then I'll bring you guys in, and then I'll do my kind of
Let me read the
fun
intro.
facts.
Let me read the intro.
Okay.
It's about time I read the
Wow.
these.
This is a first. This is a first.
Normally I take a back seat on this podcast.
I appreciate it.
There's that look do everything, because honestly, let's be honest, he gets more joy out of all this than
That's true. That's true. I'm manipulating my friends.
My role, Mike.
Welcome to Podcast Impossible, a special rewatch miniseries from Least Important Things, where we accept the mission of watching every Mission Impossible movie leading up to the 7th installment in the series, Dead Reckoning Part 1. Our task is to investigate the improbable influence of this franchise on culture, cinema, and of course, Tom Cruise's legacy. With me, of course, is the Luther to my Ethan, my good friend Luke Ferris.
Well done, Michael.
Welcome the August Walker and the White Widow to our Ethan and Luther, Justin and JD.
Hello.
Good to be back.
We're glad to have you back, JD. Now, we have to call you out because you selected Fallout as the movie you wanted to be on. Why Fallout? Why were you jumping on Fallout when this first was launched?
A couple reasons. Action-packed, some questionable climbing skills, a lot of running, and you have Henry Cavill just ready to go, arms pumped. Gotta love it.
It's so good. We're happy to have you. Happy to have both of you. This is a reunion that we've been long in the works. JD, of course, if you are listeners of Jurassic Pod, JD joined us. What movie did you join us for Jurassic Pod?
I was a part of your debut episode, I believe. Jurassic Park 1.
Was it? Wow.
Something like that.
It was.
The
wow.
guest's memory precedes the
the host.
We've made so much incredible content.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I only have to remember 2 episodes, you know?
Yeah.
This one and the other one.
Yeah, there you go. All right, gents, I'm going to dive right into the facts and figures for Mission Impossible Fallout. Are we ready to go?
Yes.
Mission Impossible Fallout opened on July 27th, 2018, and it would gross over $791 million. That's $100 million more than the previous 2 films. And it cost $178 million to make. That's $28 million more than Ghost Protocol. It was shot on location in Norway, New Zealand, London, and Paris. And here's the team. You know a lot of them. They're coming back. Chris McQuarrie returns as director and writer. There is a newcomer, Rob Hardy, as cinematographer. He did Ex Machina and Annihilation, edited by Eddie Hamilton. He returns. We have someone new at the helm on the score, Lauren Belf, who did Pacific Rim Uprising, Lego Batman movie, Terminator Genesis, and 13 Hours. I think we're going to get it back to the musical score coming at the end, and it involves bongos. The film stars Tom Cruise as Ethan Hunt, Henry Cavill as August Walker. I don't remember his first name being told. August Walker.
What character was that?
Henry Cavill.
I think they just called him Walker.
They just call him Walker.
Which I kept thinking of Walker, Texas Ranger. I was like, is he going to pop up out of here?
I thought his name was Walker.
Yeah, Walker Flame.
AT.
I didn't realize they used his full name.
Ving Rhames as Luther. Benji returns as Benji. Or Simon Pegg returns as Benji. Rebecca Ferguson as Ilsa Faust. Sean Harris comes back as Solomon Lane. This is the first time we've ever had a back-to-back villain in the franchise, where we've had the villain make multiple appearances. Angela Bassett is a newcomer as Erica Sloan. Vanessa Kirby joins the cast as the White Widow. Michelle Moynihan returns as Julia, and Alec Baldwin returns as Alan Huntley. A lot of returners to the franchise. I have some interesting facts that you can fact check, but there's a lot I want to save for our discussion, so I'll open up with just these little teases. The film had 3,000 setups, 13 helicopters, 6 pregnancies, all different women, 5 hiatuses, 4 weeks of aerial photography, 3 continents, 2 winters, and 1 broken ankle. You can guess whose ankle that was. And Jeremy Renner was not in this film, even though he was contracted. He has more films on his contract. JD, what do you think Jeremy Renner was doing around 2018-ish?
Couldn't imagine. Maybe something to do with Marvel?
There might be a Marvel picture project. It might be Avengers Endgame that he would have been working on. This little indie film that came out just a year later. The Paris chase scene involves stuntmen in 70 cars driving to avoid Tom Cruise, who was riding on his motorcycle against traffic without a helmet at extremely high speeds. Do not do that at home, my friends. Tom Cruise, did you know this, was originally set to play Napoleon Solo in The Man from U.N.C.L.E., which was made in 2015, but he had to drop out because of Rogue Nation. Guess who replaced him? Henry Cavill. It's a little crossover there. And I will save the interesting facts that you can check yourself later on, because there's some good ones, gents. All right. First, JD and Justin, what's your relationship with Mission Impossible? What's your walk with Mr. Cruise? What's your run with Mr. Cruise?
You want to go first, Justin?
It sounds like you do.
Okay. So, to be honest, I didn't get into the Mission Impossible series until Ghost Protocol. So like the reboot era. So maybe that's why I have a closer affinity to numbers, the movies 4 through 6, is that it was just, that was the thing to do when there's a new Mission Impossible reboot. So let's go watch it in theaters. And I've enjoyed all 3 of those. Like, the previous trilogy was more so like, it's on TV, maybe it's on the plane, I guess I'll watch it, barely paying attention kind of thing. But I was fully bought in by the time of Ghost Protocol.
Yeah, we've talked about that on the podcast, is there's definitely a change with number 4. And I like how you talked about how they're almost 2 different trilogies, because there's definitely a tonal shift in just the production value. Justin, what about you? What was your journey with Mission Impossible? Same as JD?
A little bit, but mostly I'm just here for Cruise.
Yeah, thank you.
And the unchanging face, the runs, and just the pure tenacity that Tom continues to exude.
Do we clock his age on this one? Is it
60?
Yeah, probably. Like
it was 60. 60. He's 75.
Another.
We do have coming out this summer as well. We have Harrison Ford, who's 80 years old, starring in an action movie again. So there's something going on in Hollywood.
But he kind of looks his age.
Yeah,
which
he
is
does.
Harrison looks old. Tom Cruise doesn't look a day over 40.
Yeah.
At the time of recording this, Extraction 2 has just been released. I was gonna say that kind of proves my point, because I was gonna say I will be watching Extraction 2, but the point being, we've run out of marketable action stars.
It's not the same. It's definitely not the same. When Cruise and Ford are still bringing people into theaters after 30 years of doing that, it shows that there's something about the old ways. Sometimes they're the best ways.
That, and you just want to see how much longer they can push the envelope.
We did talk about JD. We were able to actually watch this together for the first time in a while, in person, right before we were recorded. We were thinking that Tom Cruise's goal might be to be a 100-year-old person in a movie. Like, he might want that. I feel like that's his next
cameos.
goal. Like, he wants to be 100 years old and be in a movie. I think that's
Not just that, but the first 100-year-old to do a stunt.
yes.
No, that is going to happen.
I believe it. I believe it. He's well on his way. And then I think we've talked about space is he flirted with space. He was pretty high up in this one. It was his probably furthest altitude. Would you say that, JD, being an expert yourself of space and time? Space and time.
I mean, the Halo jump is definitely, that's the first time he's ever done that. And I guess Halo planes fly the highest. I'm trying to think if there was a time where he did another skydive.
Not that
Am I
high,
forgetting
though.
something?
Not that
Yeah.
high. Not that high.
So for sure, yeah, is the highest he has been recorded.
Until we don't know. Mission Impossible 25 when he's 100 years old.
Exactly.
There we
He's gonna
go.
be- He's going to be a Red Bull suit.
Yeah.
I was gonna, yeah, they would probably drop him from space.
Do the Red Bull drop.
Yes.
Yep.
But honestly, even in 10 years, there could be technology where it's feasible for him to film in space.
Yes, exactly.
He's
They would
ready.
they would film him in orbit.
It's easier to
that'll
film.
just be the movie.
It's easier to film in space, I gotta think, than it would be to film like in the Mariana Trench. Like James Cameron went down there and collected footage. So
yeah, the space at this point would be easier to do that than doing the Cameron way. Well, let's get into it, gentlemen. Lot to cover in this film. It's packed with so much. We start out with a dream, the first dream sequence, I think, in the film. This sets up the whole movie. Ethan's fear of Lane, essentially. I don't know if he's afraid of losing Julia or the unresolved things for Lane, or does Lane represent his lack of closure with Julia? I don't know. What do you think the
Wow, that got
message
super
is?
deep.
you think maybe Lane
Super
is
deep
just,
right from the get-go.
Yeah,
Lane's just a supervillain, Luke.
but why do a dream sequence right off? Because that's a pretty strong, like, emotional scene to start out with. Well, nothing from anybody over here. Well, we start out in Belfast. Ethan gets a parcel delivery. Then it's pretty much the most like straight and narrow mission delivery in a while, where it's in a book, which seems very basic. Like they hollowed out the book and that had the message in. Did you guys notice what the book was?
The Odyssey.
The Odyssey. I was trying to rack my high school English class brain of like what symbolisms in the Odyssey, and I think it's Odysseus returning back from from Troy with Brad Pitt, and he's trying to get home, and it takes him a while. Is that correct? I think is that
No.
what?
First of all, Brad Pitt's character Achilles dies.
Well,
during the battle.
from that fight, what's the book called? What is the book?
That's the Iliad.
The Iliad. Thank you, JD. Someone paid attention in class.
200 points, please.
Yes. So I thought that was interesting. So if you see any, if there's any literature fans out there, look for Odysseus themes throughout the film.
I think it's interesting that films 5 and 6 had the first connecting storyline, and it's probably because after the success of 4, they realized they could do a lot more than just 5, 6. So it was their opportunity to try to like create a overarching storyline.
Yeah, that's a really good point, and it proves why there's so many returning characters in this film. There's a lot of people throughout the trilogy that you talked about, JD, but also pulling back from Mission Impossible 3. So it's definitely a greatest hits, even though the last one you could say was a greatest hit of Mission Impossible. It feels like every film, especially with Macquarie, they're just building and adding on to it, which makes this movie such a beast from the beginning. So as Mission Impossible does, which we appreciate as viewers, that both in world, in cinema, and out cinema, the movie explains what the stakes are right away with a mission. It's a great device. It's one of the reasons I love Mission Impossible is it's very simple. And essentially what we need to do is get 3 balls of plutonium. So there's just 3 balls, and those are bad. And that's basically the plot, right? Simple.
Yep.
Simple. So essentially what happens that sets this all off is Ethan is going to do a deal in Berlin with a J. Crew model, and they're trying to get the 3 balls, and the whole thing goes to awry, and essentially Luther's captured, and Ethan makes a choice. Does he get the balls, or does he save his friend? And he saves his friend. Pretty wild. Pretty wild. But very Ethan type of thing to do. Do you think he made the right choice?
I think he could have gotten both.
How could he got both?
Was there another? Did you see another route, JD?
Yes, he does.
The balls are the plutonium balls are stolen because
The monkey balls.
The monkey balls. Yes.
he shot at Luther and the guy holding him hostage, but then immediately after, the guy holding him hostage runs off, and even if Ethan is concerned about Luther, Benji's got that section covered. He can double back and grab it. The suitcase was just around the corner.
Yeah.
Like, he didn't need to run all the way to Luther and then run back. He could have. Mission accomplished. Luther is safe. Benji's covering. Let's grab the plutonium and go.
Do you think Ethan's slipping in this movie?
He might be. I mean, I think that's an emphasis of the movie, is that maybe they're saying Ethan is soft.
Yeah, that he chooses, like, he has kind of this kind of fake morality, this one person over a million. JD coming prepared. That's what we love. So obviously the balls are gone. They lost the balls, and
Mike's face.
Mike's face says it all, folks. You can't see his face, but it's
And the leg swishing.
it's good. Essentially, they capture the guy who made the nuclear device, the nuclear puzzle, essentially. And this got me again. This got me the first time I watched it, but the Wolf Blitzer of it all really got me. I totally thought that 3 cities were nuked, and Ethan is totally distraught. This is acting within acting, wouldn't you say? Because the actors are acting
Like, yeah.
and they're great actors.
Yeah.
But they're also great actors in real life, but they're great actors in worlds. So you think there's a huge IMF training section that's all about, like, performance acting
And acting like certain
real life people.
Yeah.
just impersonating real life people.
They're like, you could either be an IMF agent or you could just do a lot of cinema.
They have this Norwegian weapons expert. Okay, he's a Norwegian nuclear weapons expert.
Which, like, really, the Norwegians?
Right. Like, what the heck is Norway doing with a nuclear weapons expert?
Norway, you don't see him coming.
Corrupted one at that.
You
Like,
don't
this
see
guy,
him coming.
He's trying to destroy the world.
That free healthcare and saunas, it's not enough. It's not enough.
It's also, I think, the best mask scene of the entire franchise.
It's pretty solid. It reminds me of the first Mission Impossible. They do a similar type of setup. And a reason why I love this one is because Benji gets to wear his mask for the first time, and he gets to be Wolf Blitzer, which is also pretty impressive.
Another good mask scene that I don't give enough credit for is in Mission Impossible 2 at the very end as well. When he puts the mask on the baddie, the baddie can't talk.
Oh, yeah. That one's good. Yeah, with the doves, with the help of the doves.
JD, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say the Benji's, if no one else is taking acting classes, Benji for sure is.
Yeah, he is.
Yes.
Benji's definitely putting in the extra work.
There was a season of training he was in.
Yeah.
I think Benji, he's the silent part of their team, the man behind the scenes.
He's really the hero. Yeah, he has, and he does a lot in this movie. He has, like, a fight scene. So apparently Simon Pegg got pretty ripped for this movie, and him and Henry Cavill were making fun of him, or Tom Cruise and Henry Cavill were making fun of him on set because he actually had a 6-pack for the first time in his life. But he had to. I mean, he had some pretty intense action sequences throughout the movie. Just love Benji in the field. So we have some new characters. Obviously, we have Lark, who is played, we have the White Widow, who is played by, Vanessa Kirby, who I love. She's an amazing actress in a ton of stuff. And then we have Angela Bassett coming in as basically in charge of the CIA, which I think was really smart to bring her in. And I believe she's going to be in the next movie, which is really exciting to see.
It sounds like at the end that she kind of takes over.
Yeah, I do like the line when they're at the landing strip, and Hunley's like, "This was a lateral move for me to go to the IMF." Like you're like, but I did it for you. Like it's so good. I kind of forgot that. I thought Hunley was going to flip and become bad. For some reason in my head, I always think he's going to become bad, but he doesn't, and he like goes out on top, which I really appreciate.
There was some pretty heavy foreshadowing throughout this movie, and Hunley giving Ethan that pep talk was like, "Oh no, he's gonna die."
That was too genuine. It was too loving.
I have a question, honest question from everybody to answer. What is Ethan's greatest nemesis? Is it the villains or is it the CIA?
It might be the CIA. Well, then they talk about that. Like JD said, is that on his record, like it was very easy for the CIA to make him a fall guy because it was like we have an electronic record of all the like mistakes you've made and the amount of times you've gone rogue. So Ethan is not really. I mean, I think he's pretty loyal to the IMF, but not. I think he's more loyal to the job of trying to save the world. Like that's what his
mission
focus is.
first.
Mission first, saving the world, and like he's not really into. I think the politics of the CIA or like any of the bureaucratic stuff that comes with that.
Which is that what makes it the Mission Impossible? Because because he doesn't have the support of the bigwigs.
It's all the like, well, let's loop back and we'll schedule another meeting for that mission. Well, did he say like it would? Oh yeah, when Henry Cavill's character come in, when they're talking on the landing strip, Hunley's like, that'll take 24 hours to turn around. Like we need to do it now. Like we need to capture the guy right now in Paris. So it's true. There was like all that paperwork, all that paper pushing. It's
government bureaucracy, man.
Yep, intentionally slow, but and Ethan doesn't go slow. He's not filing any paperwork at the end of his missions. That's for sure. Or he has an intern who's really doing a lot of heavy lifting of how he got it all done.
It's a surprising amount of national security is held together by daily meetings.
It's a beautiful thing. Thank you for your service.
Enforced jokes.
Thank you for work puns. Okay, so let's get right into. Unless you guys have anything else, let's get right into the Halo jump. I have some facts on the jump here. Let me get them up for you.
All CGI. It's all CGI.
It's all CGI.
All CGI.
Okay, the Halo jump. It took a total of 106 jumps to get 3 possible takes. Some of the other cast members turned up to visit the shooting. Simon Pegg said that he and his co-stars thought multiple times that Cruise was seriously about to die. This is his quote. "It is a daily stress going to work with him because you don't know if you're going to see him tomorrow," which is really dark. JD, being someone who works in the air or works with things in the air, how are you? Because you've jumped out of an airplane before, is that correct?
I have, however, just once. My roommate is a very experienced skydiver, though, so I've taken a glimpse into that world.
And what were your thoughts about the Halo jump, like the way it was filmed? Because I think it's one of the best jump action sequence of all time, up there with Point Break. It was amazing visually. It really felt like you were jumping with them.
Well, I heard that it'd take over 100 jumps, but I thought that was just to get certified, because I know that it's not, you can't just do a Halo jump first thing. You have to have hundreds, maybe even thousands of jumps before you're qualified to attempt Halo or to train for Halo.
Interesting. So that fact might be actually inaccurate. It might be that Cruise had to do it 100. He had to get in a certain amount of jumps before doing Halo.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know how much of a perfectionist Tom Cruise or the director are. Maybe that they needed 106 jumps. Props to the cameraman, because it's hard enough to jump off a plane, but then to make sure that you're controlling your fall and your orientation to film, it's 10 times harder.
Which made it feel cooler because you really feel like you're there, like you're jumping with him. It's It's gnarly.
Those camera stabilizers were they were pushing the limit.
They were pushing the limits. It's then so basically they land again the motif of like Ethan saving one life. He saves Henry Cavill, who ends up being the bad guy, which he regrets later on. But then they go into Paris. They join the club, the party scene. I want to be an extra in that party scene. I really love the bass. We noticed, JD, that both of the characters that jumped in, Cruz and Cavill, both were not dressed for like a rave dance party, like house music. Did you notice that they were wearing like full suits? Not appropriate to a party hard in.
I mean, there's different kinds of raves. There's like the EDM festivals.
Please go on.
Yeah, I like this.
Please continue.
There's like the urban. There's the urban clubs. I mean, I think the costume designers are thinking it's Paris. It's be classy. There's spies.
That's true.
They're putting their fingers up to their ears.
Yep. Which I did appreciate that they could not hear, because you wouldn't really be able to hear. But so we're thinking that's it's a classy dance party. Mm-hmm. So they were like, we have to dress up. It's Paris classy dance party. So essentially what they're trying to do is they're trying to grab this guy who is essentially, they assume, I'm trying to remember what the guy's name is. Like, what's the code name?
Oh,
John Doe.
John Lark.
John Lark. So that's essentially the person that is trying to buy the balls, and they get him.
He's got the world by the balls.
He does. And they go into the bathroom, which is like a beautiful white bathroom that I think it's. I just love this fight sequence because it's cemented in the reality of the space, and I just love that they're both getting destroyed by this stunt actor. It's so cool. I love the scene.
Which, I mean, the fact that bathroom is looking like that in the midst of a rave.
Yeah, it actually is a very clean. It's a very classy. That's actually probably why it's very classy, because like it's perfection. Like it's like there's no puke or anything. It's very, very well taken care of.
JD, how many raves have you been to?
A handful. No, mostly the EDM fest type, not the inner city club type, or the classy Paris club type.
Hey, you still got time.
Yeah,
you still got time. You're still young. I do love how the bass is going on in the back. It's one of the facts that I read was Henry Cavill. Of course, you know him as Superman. It was probably his most famous role. He said that it was much harder to train for the stunts on Mission Impossible because for Superman, essentially he was just bulking, and that's all he had to do. He just had to like bulk, and then like Superman just punches. But for this, he actually had to train and do those stunts because, like we've learned with a lot of the other actors that work with Cruise, there's kind of a, hey, if Cruise is going to do it, I'm going to do it. Rebecca Ferguson did the same thing. She was like, I'm going to try to do as much as I can to match Tom Cruise in the last film, in this film as well. So it was cool to like read that Cavill, like he's Superman, but he also, like he said, that this movie was harder to train for.
He was humbled by the Cruise.
So speaking of Rebecca Ferguson, Ilsa comes back. She's in the game. There's a couple lines in this scene that I like. Hope is not a strategy, which Henry Cavill's character says, which I appreciate. That
it's actually exactly what we say in meetings all the time. As
really?
An engineer, yes. We'll say, like we'll need to do testing for something, and we have to come up with justification for why we're going to run a test, and it can't just be that we're going to hope, because hope's not a strategy. We'll say that hope's not a strategy.
Interesting. Well, I feel like in marketing, it's the obvious. Like hope is what you're selling, which is interesting.
Hope is the strategy.
What I think that's
all we have.
That's all we have. I do like when they're fighting the blood stain, which is pretty shocking because there's not a lot of like blood like from wounds in this franchise, and to see that blood on that white bathroom is pretty stark. But then they kind of make a joke out of it where Ilsa grabs Henry Cavill's nose, like they were, he just has a bloody nose. Which if you're bleeding that much blood from your nose, that's there's something going on there.
JD, how many rave bathroom fights have you been in?
Bro, I wouldn't go near a bathroom. I hold that in.
You squeeze as much as you can. You got to do your business beforehand.
Exactly.
You got to do your business. Yeah. I do love the line. Oh, is that the wind?
Yeah.
I want to shut that window. Oh, the wind was coming in, JD.
That's JD.
Storms
I heard
coming.
that. Yeah, I heard that over the mic.
Storms coming, Annie. Better get home quick. Okay.
Feel it in my bones.
I do like the exchange between Hunt and Ilsa. You should have stayed out of the game. You should have come with me. That's good. There is an Alias reference. Thank you, Ethan Hunt. He mentions that he has an alias. So there's one. Okay, so then we move from the bathroom to the fundraiser part of the rave.
It was just adjacent. They'd book the same time.
Yeah.
She's like, well, I think we got to go through with it.
I'm
It's
sorry,
actually
guys.
like at work. There's only so many conference rooms. And somebody books the conference room that you'd like to have. So you're like, okay, well, we'll just go across the hall.
The hall, yeah.
JD, how many fundraiser raves have you been to?
What would be your ideal charity to raise money at a rave?
Probably something like ALS.
Yeah, there you go. That's a good one. That'd be good. Let's do it.
EDM for ALS.
EDM for ALS. I love it. Make it happen out there, nonprofit workers. So essentially, there's a buyer and seller. The White Widow is a broker. So broker, and they actually explain brokers really simply. And I was like, oh, that's easy to understand. As a broker connects the buyer and the seller, and she does that with armaments and weapons. So they, Ethan pretends he's whatever the dude's the alias name, and then essentially they escape together, which is fun. We have some knife fighting, and so basically what happens is the White Widow wants Ethan to steal, kidnap his former nemesis Solomon Lane as payment for the balls. Wow. Did not see that coming. We see this is a really interesting part of the film. We see a fake out dream sequence of Ethan essentially seeing what their plan is like, we're going to just essentially do a shoot 'em up and kill everybody and take Lane, which I think he makes a good point in character, saying that's a bad, your strategy is to just shoot everybody. It's a terrible strategy. But it was interesting that they showed that part to us. And I think they showed it to us because in the shot, Ethan's kind of thinking about himself having to kill a French police officer, and what that would mean.
Well, I think here too, Ethan, I don't know, the way I kind of saw it is Ethan has a moment where he does wrestle with his own morality, but what I kind of see it is him wrestling with like, am I any better than Lane?
Interesting.
If I go through with this.
Yeah. Do the means
Justify the ends.
Thank you.
Or do the ends justify the means?
Do the ends justify the means? But that doesn't happen. That vision doesn't happen. There's a gorgeous shot of Paris of Henry Cavill and Erica Sloane, played by Angela Bassett, that I love. It's like a morning scene in Paris with the Eiffel Tower in the background. That's where we essentially learn that Cavill is a baddie, which they reveal pretty early on in the movie. And we kind of see his rage talking about essentially being a disavowed agent and that kind of anger and frustration. So,
but is it actually revealed early or later on in the
film? So we essentially go on to the plan that's happening. So what does Ethan do? Of course, he's not going to shoot everybody up. What does he do? He just rams the truck into the other truck into the water, and then pulls backwards, and we get a nice kind of. I mean, this sequence is so long if you think about how it starts and where it ends. Is like, okay, we have a truck chase. Ethan's driving a truck, and then he moves on to a BMW, right? And now he's in the BMW with the crew and Lane. No. It's truck, bike, then BMW.
Yes. Truck, bike, BMW.
BMW.
Because the
And then-
BMW, go ahead, Justin.
And then legs.
and then running.
and then
You're
leg.
right. And then running.
And
So
then,
then legs.
Legs, and
Well,
then
did
legs.
you forgot the
Like-
boat in the sewer?
The boat in the sewer. So we have like all the vehicles.
Yeah,
That's pretty impressive.
yeah.
It's pretty impressive that like you don't really
JD,
realize as a viewer.
I had a question for JD on this. How many world terrorists have you kidnapped via submarine, like extraction?
To my knowledge, I have never kidnapped a terrorist via submarine specifically.
Okay, just making sure.
But that's to his knowledge.
To his knowledge, I do like Ethan has a line says, "We'll burn that bridge when we get there," which I think is great. It's kind of like he's making this up as he goes. I just love all the shots of Tom Cruise driving a bike through Paris. I think it's gorgeous. I think it's probably the least Parisian thing to have Tom Cruise riding a motorcycle at high speeds through the streets of cobblestones Paris, but it looks pretty good.
You know what? Screw them.
Screw him. It's
Screw Paris.
His hair is blown back. It doesn't look that great, but
He's doing it.
he's doing it.
It's very MI2 with the bike. That's the first. There's another good MI2 nod. There's a great shot right before he gets hit by the car. It's like 360 degrees of Paris has these like almost like they're 5 streets. Like it's almost like a star, and there's streets coming into essentially a roundabout. I mean, the Champs-Élysées is essentially the big version, but within the city, there's a bunch of them, and they have that 360 shot where Ethan's like looking at all the different routes, and they're all clogged up. It's pretty good.
Funny enough, the town that we're in right now actually has that as well.
Really?
There's a 5-street intersection. It's at the corner of Lincoln, 32nd.
You're right.
This is not important to anybody who doesn't live in Holland.
Yes.
but yes.
I know exactly where that is. Yeah.
So should we try to recreate this on like a
should.
moped
I'm like a moped.
I'll come in.
or just a bicycle?
Yeah, I'll come
Justin's
flying
bicycle.
in on my bicycle with yellow tires.
And then we'll just film it and just run around. Let's do it, guys. We can do it. McCoy's got nothing on us. Okay, I'm looking here. Okay.
Actually, so sorry. I would like to back up just a little bit because
Yeah.
I had a note about the fight scene in the bathroom. So I'm so
Yeah.
sorry. I want to jump
It's okay.
back.
This is loose. We're playing it loose
Super
today.
loose. Okay. So I recently listened to an interview of Tom Cruise talking about that fight scene.
Mm-hmm.
And the one instance where Henry Cavill is kind of like thrown into a wall, and then the bad guys going to town on Tom Cruise, and then Tom Cruise is kind of like, anyway, Tom Cruise kind of gets thrown aside, and then Cavill kind of like gets up and like shakes his arms out.
Oh,
You know
yeah,
what I'm
we
talking about?
totally skipped
Yeah,
that.
the
I'm so
classic
sorry,
arm
guys.
No, it's a reload.
He reloads
He
his
reloads
guns.
it.
He
So-
reloads it.
So when they shot that, Cavill did that in the first take, and then they had to reshoot it for some reason. They did another take of it, and then he just didn't do it. Like it just wasn't. It just was something that he just
He just
did
improv'd on the day.
He improv'd it, and McQuarrie stopped, called cut, brought him over to the monitor, and showed him. He's like, "Why didn't you please do this?" And so then for each subsequent take, he made sure
he did
that.
it.
Yes.
Oh, that's so cool. I don't know why that. I'm sorry we skipped that because
But like Tom Cruise
it's iconic.
says, Cruise says in this interview, it's like one of the coolest things he's ever seen, and just like, yeah, it's just neat.
It is I don't know. It's one of the most memorable parts of this entire franchise. Just that improv is so cool.
It exemplifies just everything about that movie. And I'm sure that Henry Cavill was forced to do that over and over again at like
Oh yeah.
photo shoots or red carpet
Yeah,
events.
or like parties with friends. You think he has to do that? That's his party trick.
biceps.
Hey, reload those, man. That's the sound.
That noise.
That's my noise.
Oh yeah, this is an audio form.
Yeah. There we go. Just did it. Okay, so going back to Paris, thank you, Mike. That was very important.
We'll fix it in
We'll
post.
fix it in post. Anything on the Paris chase scene? The Paris.
I mean, with that chase scene, namely talking about Ethan running.
Oh yeah,
I just,
running.
Well, I just thought it was really cool how they spliced together the before broken ankle, after broken ankle.
Yeah.
Made that seamless.
So if you don't know, listeners, one of the takes, it's pretty much when he's jumping over the building and you're shooting. They're shooting it from behind, so you see the full jump. That's when he broke his leg, and he you can see it on his face, and they kept shooting.
It's a full Aragorn.
Yeah, it's incredible that, and it set him back 5 months. But like you said, Justin, to be able to splice that, knowing that they took a 5-month break after that shot, and they probably didn't finish all the running.
And the continuity. I mean,
It's
having to have
amazing.
the same hair, jacket, everything.
It's so cool, and there's just so much good running shots. I mean, it's just like, I know we talked about Mission Impossible 3 that when he's running in China, as that was one of my favorite running scenes at the end.
Yes.
But him running over the Thames on top of the bridge is just, with London in the background, is just gorgeous.
I'm ready to say it. It's the best running scene in the franchise.
Whoa.
I was about to chime in about that. It's certainly the longest, right?
Yeah, it's probably the longest. It's probably a little bit longer.
Then the Dubai scene.
Yeah, it's probably longer than the China scene. What do you guys think about what it would be like to work in the office that Ethan Hunt ran into and then threw a chair? Like that,
I would love it.
That would be
That'd
the best office story ever.
It'd be a great distraction.
Can you imagine how like it was
the humdrum?
You're just so bored in your office job, and this guy runs in and then just like throws a chair and then just jumps out and keeps going. And imagine like someone who like was working from home that day. Like, dude, you totally missed the most amazing thing ever.
They had to step out for a doctor's appointment.
Yeah, it's like someone played hooky that day and was like, oh, of course, the day I skip. Okay, where are we at? Ilsa's chasing after them. We don't know why. We will find out later. And they have Lane in the car. Bike. They were able to escape. We have our first drone in the franchise. Benji uses a drone to take the chaser from Lane and get the police to stop following them. There's a really good line with Lane that was from the trailer about like, you should have killed me. Kind of goes on, basically telling Ethan that like, you're screwed, man. The suffering's going to happen and you can't control it. Like the doom is impending. It's a great sequence, great line from a great villain who I enjoy. I'm glad they brought him back. The White Widow comes back. She says, you have to bring Ilsa to me. Another power move, another play. She gives him a kiss, which I like. That's definitely like she was in charge. She's in control of him. Now Benji doesn't want to mask. So we essentially where we're at is, oh, sorry, I skipped over Ilsa. So Ethan goes to Ilsa and says, like, get out while you can. We find out that Ilsa is back working for MI6. In order for her slate to wipe clean, she has to essentially kill Lane. Because MI5 does not want Lane out there telling state secrets. So, again, we have this kind of three-pronged, we're all chasing after the same thing. Then our boys are in, where are they at? They are in the basement of somewhere. I don't know where they are.
They're in a sewer again, right? Because then that's when they switch out Lane's tracker.
That's right. Mm-hmm. They're in the sewer. They switch out Lane's tracker, and then that's when they go meet up with the director. Right after that, the director kind of surprises them. But we learn that this is not just a surprise. Essentially, what we think is they're trying to deliver Lane, but essentially it's a trap to it's a trap to get Walker to reveal himself as the double agent, which I really like. Benji gets to wear another mask. Another great acting performance by Benji. He's just putting in the work.
He is.
Like, imagine he's like, you gotta act the person that tried to kill you. It's pretty impressive.
Hey, we skipped the Brie paradox.
Oh, we did bring in the Brie paradox. JD, if you didn't know, the Brie paradox is from great listener, great friend of the show, Andy Warson. His wife Brie has a moment where she looks up from her Kindle and is surprised of what's happening in the movie. We talked about it in the last episode, so we want to continue that tradition. What is the Brie paradox for Fallout?
So it happens again at the rave that JD was at, where they're in the fundraiser section, and
Was it the fundraiser?
That was the Brie
The
paradox.
fund raver.
The fund raver. Hey.
Guys, this is happening.
Wow.
I'm done for the day. Thank you,
There
guys.
you go.
See you, JD.
He's out.
Bye.
So they're like talking or whatever, and so Cruz is talking to the White Widow, and people start to come up and like attack them, and he's like fending them off, right? He's fighting them off, and there's like people getting stabbed and people like falling to the ground, and there's all this like hubbub, but like nobody's doing anything. Like they're all just like standing there. Everyone in the room
They're
is just,
shocked. They're at a fundraising event.
they're just kind of shocked. They're just standing there, and then somebody pulls out a gun, shoots one bullet, and everybody clears out. And Bree's moment of like the Bree paradox is, oh, that was the moment you decided that it was like time to get out of there. Like it took a gun to get everybody.
It must have been, those fundraisers must have gotten rowdy. They must have been like, oh, this is pretty typical. Usually there's a tackle or something. Someone's trying the silent auction. People are trying to like get higher bids. You know, it's typical.
Well, also the White Widow is trying to play herself off as this like benevolent philanthropist, and then she pulls out a butterfly knife and stabs the guy right in front of everyone.
Yeah, not going to be raising a lot of money that night. I don't think they're not probably excited to give her money. Like,
Well, I did tell Andy when he was explaining this to me, I said that if there was a knife fight in a bar that I was at, I don't know that I wouldn't like not watch it. But obviously as soon as somebody pulls a gun out, then I'm like, I need to get the heck out of here.
yeah.
Yeah.
I guess it makes sense, but it is. You think after the tackling and the fighting that would be
Right.
enough, but that is the Brie paradox for Mission Impossible Fallout. Thank you, Brie. She's I don't think she ever volunteered to be part of this, but I'm thanking her anyway.
No.
She was
Indoctrinated.
yeah, she was just part of it. It had to happen. Okay, so we have a couple bait and switches. Benji gets Henry Cavill to reveal. Very smart. The director gets to play a part in it. He's very excited. And going back to JD mentioning the pump up speech, you knew the director was in trouble as soon as he got really exciid. He was like,
it was like, oh man, I'm having so much fun.
I'm part of the team.
You're gonna die.
It's truly
I
sad.
can't wait for all our fun adventures together.
Oh man, this is gonna be so great. Yeah, it's pretty sad because he gets killed by Henry Cavill, and then we think it's okay because Angela Bassett comes in. She basically is like, okay, I'm taking y'all in to come to DC because I don't trust any of you guys, which is the right move, to be fair. Like from her perspective, back in Washington, she's like, I'm bringing you all in. We'll figure out this mess. We'll get the paperwork. We'll get the meetings done. She's doing it by the book. She's not messing around. Unfortunately, there is some of the members of the Assassin's Creed. What were they called? The Alliance? The
Apostles.
The Apostles.
The Apostles were there and started just screwing everything up. So, and that's what starts the running, right?
Well, there's two running scenes, right? Or was it running in Paris?
Yeah.
Yeah, there was running in Paris, but this is when the London running starts.
Yeah, the super long running scene is London.
Yeah, I got my running scenes mixed up. It just all blurs together.
That's a normal thing.
One of the hard parts about this movie is it's such a good movie. Not that the other ones weren't good movies, but it does suck you in. And when you're trying to write notes, you're like, it goes all over the place because it's so.
I'm ready to say
distract.
it. Second best running scene of the franchise.
Okay, so I do like the line where Ethan chases Henry Cavill to the Tate Modern. They're going up the elevator. He's carrying on. Then we learn that they've been following Julia. They know where Julia is at, and he says, "You got to know when you're beat." And I think that's pretty prevalent because at that moment it does feel like you're beat, especially later on when Benji's describing what's happening with the nuclear bombs and how difficult it is. Luther has a touching moment with Ilsa explaining the backstory of Ethan and Julia, which we didn't really get at all. We knew they broke up. You could assume that they broke up because of his job, but he goes into more detail of that.
He talks about it at the end of 3 or 4.
I feel like he didn't go into that much detail.
He talks about it with
with
Renner's
character.
Yeah, but I think they were still married at that point. He was keeping a watchful eye out because he had faked Julia's death to help keep her safe, but they were still married. Because
I mean, I don't disagree that they might have still been married on paper, but I don't think they were together at all.
I feel like this helped explain it, though, and having it come from Luther is really powerful. It was one of his best scenes in the franchise because obviously Luther as a character, he's been there. He's the moral compass for Ethan, and for him to say like, walk away, like Ethan the only reason that we're in this meth is because Ethan wanted to save me. It'll be easy for him, but Ilsa says no. A quick fun fact on Rebecca Ferguson: she was pregnant for like 5 months of the shooting for this.
Were the 5 months that Tom Cruise had a broken ankle?
No, it was still while they were, because I did notice. I think she wears like a longer overcoat in the second half of the film, and I think those were the scenes where maybe she was showing a little bit. But it's pretty impressive.
Oh, of course.
Okay, so we go rogue again because they don't need help from the CIA or FBI, and so we have to go find a needle in the haystack, and we're going to Kashmir, where our heroes think and suspect that Lane is, because we know Lane is going to...
They've got a tracker in them.
Oh, yeah, they have a tracker in them. So they're going to follow Lane to Kashmir. And this is where the final sequence comes up, the final sequence of the movie. They realize it's going to be a needle in the haystack because there's all this medical equipment, because there's a UN delegation set up there to help with the smallpox outbreak that Lane actually created. This is where the one part of rewatching this that it seems like there's a lot of work that the villain has to do to make this revenge happen. I think they do a pretty good job where the location is going to basically destroy the water supply for half of the world. It's going to contaminate it. But it feels like a lot to get Julia there when he could just like capture her.
Yeah. I think I wonder if
I like it. It's just like rewatching it again. You're like,
I like it a lot better than capturing her. And I also think that capturing her doesn't like provide the shock value to Ethan.
That's true.
Because Ethan would just come after her or something.
Yeah.
Right.
And they cover it when Jake Gyllenhaal, poor man's Jake Gyllenhaal, says,
"Listener, we decided that Julia's husband is a Jake Gyllenhaal lookalike, and the only reason it wasn't played by Jake Gyllenhaal was because Jake Gyllenhaal must have been far too expensive."
Yeah, but when he says, "Hey, we got an anonymous donation, but the only stipulation was you could lead the project," so I'm assuming the camp was already there, and then they essentially would finance them to like up, make it like really solid. So it covers it, but it was one thing I did notice. But you do get that great moment where they're looking for the bombs, and then like Julia's like, "Ethan," and he turns around. It's such a great moment for fans of the franchise. My
favorite part of that is Julia's like, "Oh, you must be on vacation, right?" And Ethan's like, "No, I'm working." Yeah,
I was just going to say that.
She knows the nature of the business, and she's like, "Oh
no,
this is
please."
Well, it's because of that comment that she immediately like went and found. She went looking for them, and found Luther, and was able to assist Luther in disarming that bomb.
Which is great because she's she's in the medical field, so she would have steady hands. So
that's right,
very helpful. Which we did find out in Mission Impossible 3. I do like that. Jake Gyllenhaal lookalike. He's really nice, but I want to know from his perspective. This is like a ABC sitcom moment. He's like, who is this mysterious doctor that's coming? There's obviously some tension. There's some history. It's like there could have been a whole side romance there.
He figures it out at the end, I'm pretty sure.
He feels really proud of himself too. Like he knows that there's something else going on, because I don't think he would be like so proud of himself if he knew that like there was about to be a nuclear fallout in that location. Like he's too smug about it. He's like, Doctor, Dr. Ethan. All right. I see you. So guys, here we go. The best quote of this whole sequence that Benji says is, I find it best not to look. And that is this whole sequence. Break it down for me, guys. Like what is this sequence all about? What, like it is just nonstop at the edge of your seat. It's so intense.
It's just pure chaos.
Because
Has
you have
anyone
on
ever
all
timed it?
levels.
JD, that's a great point, because Mike Wynne was ready with the timer. What was the
Okay.
difference of the times? Because it was
It
in
ended up
movie it
being
was
like
14.
22 minutes or something.
In movie it was 14 minutes, right? Or 17?
15.
15.
15 minutes in movie, and it was around 22 in reality, which is not bad.
But at the same time, how do you time it, right? Because they're cutting in between perspectives.
Oh,
Also, I have a theory- I have a theory
that's
about
good,
that.
JD. That's good. That's good.
I also have a theory about that because, to JD's point, at the end, Benji says, how close were we? And Ethan says, the usual. So they don't actually, I mean, we watch those two events happen at the same time.
That's
But
right.
we don't actually know that Ethan didn't actually pull the key out 5 minutes before. The tension is that they aren't able to communicate with Ethan.
Right.
Not necessarily that that the key came out and the wires were cut at the same time.
That's actually brilliant. I never really thought of that. As the viewer, we're seeing it in our real time, but it could have been totally disjointed.
Isn't there a shot with the trigger with the countdown?
There is one when he's in when Henry Cavill's in the
That's a good
helicopter.
point.
Like
That's
there's
a
like
good
a
point.
7-minute shot, but that's it.
I swear I saw a 50-minute a shot that said 50 seconds.
Well, then that might be okay.
Someone would have to do a supercut. Maybe there's a way to do that. It would be hard. It would be hard to do.
Let's get Daniel.
I wrote down
on
the
it.
timestamp. 2 hours, 12 minutes, 49 seconds ish.
That's where it says.
That's where it says
It's a long
50
countdown.
seconds.
Interesting.
Yeah, the reason why I wrote it down was I was going to comment about how fast Ethan could climb up a wall.
He's not climbing as fast as he was in Mission Impossible 2. Now it's been a few years. My whole in movie theory is that he used to really be into free climbing, and he hasn't done it in a while. Now, JD, you have much more experience climbing than all of us. So, what was your thought about that? How much?
So-
like, was it 20 feet he had to scale?
20 feet. Yeah. I don't know how you calculated, but I actually paused the frame and I calculated Tom Cruise's height, or I looked at Tom Cruise's height, and then I was like, it's about 3 or 4 body lengths.
Wow! So I just
And so-
nailed it. I'm a climber.
You know,
I know things.
I said about 10 to 15 yards. So
20 feet isn't hard to climb if you're prepared for it. That's the biggest thing, is that Ethan was not prepared for it at all.
Yeah, and he had
He
just
had-
crashed in a helicopter as well.
And also
Yeah.
had been fighting for a long time.
He's beat up. He's got none of the gear.
And he just met
it's
his
a completely
ex-wife's
foreign
husband.
wall.
When was his last
Yeah.
meal? When,
Yeah, we
has
don't-
he had any water? Somebody help him?
He's moving pretty slow though. He's not moving quick, that's for sure.
So yeah, it could have been like he could have reached the timer with like 10, 15 seconds to spare, but at the same time, like I think he needed all those 50 seconds to get up there.
I really like when Ethan is flying the helicopter and he's like telling himself like figuring out the controls, and he's trying to pump himself up. And then when he decides to go elevate, he yells, "Power!"
He went from not knowing anything about flying helicopters to like full on corkscrews and
Yeah, he got pretty good at it. Speed.
Listener, these are Top Gear references if you're not catching them.
And if you're not a
the four
Top
of
Gear
us-
fan, you should, because Tom Cruise holds the lap record, right?
I'm
He might.
Was he the celebrity that went the fastest around the Top Gear track?
I have to imagine one of the F1 drivers did a better job.
Non-professional driver, probably.
We'll look it up.
But at this
JD.
point, is he a professional driver?
That's true because he drove all those shots in Paris. He's pretty much.
We need like a Jeff Goldblum or
Yeah,
just a really quirky random.
random person that's not going to be a professional driver. Speaking of Jeff Goldblum, when the helicopters crash, we do have a nice Lost World reference with the RVs hanging over the cliff. There was a very similar type of sequence where Tom Cruise unstraps himself and jumps down. So we all thought we all while we were watching it, we're thinking Lost World, which is good. Then Henry Cavill says a very famous line. I think we were trying to figure it out. I think it's originally from James Bond, but it's "Why won't you just die," which has been used across multiple action sequences, but it was appropriate then. I have in my note bongos. If you didn't notice the music, the bongos were pretty heavy there at the end. It was just bongo.
It was just bongo.
We really wanted like a side by side of like the guy playing the bongos, but it's like. Did you notice the bongos, JD?
I didn't. No, I was focused on the climbing.
Yep. I was
focused on the
too
climb.
focused on the bongos. JD was too focused on the climbing.
Okay, the celebrity who holds the fastest lap around the Top Gear test track is. It's not Tom Cruise.
Ben
Let's
Affleck.
all. Each of you can guess one other non-professional driver celebrity.
Rowan Atkinson.
I was going to say the same.
Wait, really? Why?
Because it's a dark night.
Yeah.
Nobody will ever guess this.
It's some mid-tier British celebrity, probably.
Ellen MacArthur,
I have no idea who that is.
mid-tier British celebrity.
I think I guessed it then. How close is Tom Cruise? Is he?
Not.
Wow, I'm surprised.
Did they all have the same vehicle?
No, that's the hard thing is because every season they change out the
That's pretty rough.
moderately.
So he might have led
No,
for
but it's still
a
good.
season.
It's still good.
I think he led his season. I think so.
But he's not near the list here.
Did the hosts ever go around that track? They should have.
I don't know if they did it with the moderately priced car. Mike,
What?
are you still researching it or?
I mean, like I'm reading.
Oh, okay. He's not paying attention. Okay, so we have the final kind of scenes where our heroes at the camp don't know what's going. They are arguing on whether they should go on 2 or 1 for the cut. JD and I did a similar thing with trying to do a clap coordinates with the audio. Would you go on 2 or 1 if you guys were in that situation?
I think it makes sense to go on 1 because it's
Cut on 1.
yeah, you cut on 1 because everyone, I think everyone understands each other and that would be the easiest to synchronize.
But what if there's a lag on the radio? It's like, do you think if you cut it
No.
on 1, would it lag and then go to 0?
Well, the timers themselves are synced up. So the switch, and the timers on the
So that
bottom
didn't
are synced
matter.
up. So yeah.
But if it was kind of okay, we're gonna go on 1 and you hit and you cut at 1. But what if 1? What if from on when you see 1 to when you actually cut the electrical cord, it counts down to 0? Does it take a full second to cut it? That's what I'd be worried about.
Well, see, here's what was interesting too: is
We need to test this out. We need to
the detonator had a digital clock on it, but the bombs had mechanical clocks on them.
Oh,
Ooh, yes.
so that's a whole nother thing. Is there could be.
Yeah.
That's good though. They kind of covered their butts because there's a lot of vagueness there.
Well, also, that's saying at the end how much time was left, the usual amount. That I think they deal with these kinds of scenarios all the time, unfortunately, and so they knew we always bring it down to the last second. So why not for this one?
That's true. It's like I think that's what they're like. Well, it's how we always do it. So might as well do it.
Then Ethan was probably just saying that. Like, yeah, that was very rough. But,
very rough.
I did it.
I did it.
I did it. We did it.
We did. I mean, I did it. We did it.
And it was very handy to have a medical
professional there to help with the chords,
but also all of the medical instruments there.
Yeah,
that's probably why they could cut through that.
Yeah.
So.
Well, it's interesting because I noticed that Julia and Luther, they essentially figured out how to get to the chord to cut. So it's really important. They did all like the pre-work, and then essentially Luther told Benji what to do on the other side.
Which is interesting because Benji's the one that was studying the like the schematics.
Yeah, but Luther's Luther. He's the man. He's the man.
Well, and was that was after Benji was almost hung?
Yeah, so which we skipped over that fight with Lane and Benji.
So
and
I mean, if
Ilsa.
somebody tried to hang me and then said disarm a bomb, I think it would be a little difficult.
Just tell me what to do.
You're gonna have to walk me through this. I got no oxygen.
I have no oxygen to my brain. Which I did. That fight sequence is pretty raw, and I enjoy it with the ropes and Benji hanging. And it's a nice, interesting touch because Ilsa also has a moment where she chooses the person over the bigger picture of like following her government orders.
Yeah.
So her and Ethan are aligned as characters, and you see that kind of that connection and love at the end. Ethan has a lot of good closure with Julia when he gets back, which I think kind of wraps up that whole sequence and that whole storyline. Is she's married, she's happy. She says, I don't regret the life that I have. It's because of you I found this life, which I think is cool and what Ethan kind of needed to hear. And now he can, I don't know if him and Ilsa will be an item, but they seem to be on the similar paths as far as
you haven't seen the trailer for the new movie yet?
What I'm trying to be cagey for the listeners. It's to help.
By the way, no, I actually have.
Mike actually hasn't seen it.
I'm purposely not watching.
That's good.
So, but it's cool because it does set up that they're on this path where they both have kind of been redeemed in a way where and more so Ilsa sees Ethan and like his way works. Even though it's kind of crazy and insane, it does work to an extent. Okay, gentlemen, any last plotline thoughts, ideas, notes, queries, debates?
Christopher McQuarrie's.
Christopher McQuarrie's.
Blueberry cobbler.
Tom Cruise can't miss.
He can't miss. He's pretty solid. He's been pretty solid the last couple of years. We're going to go on to the ratings.
I don't know. Some of his movies are night and day.
Maybe The Mummy. Never mind. He missed on The Mummy.
He missed on The Mummy. That's pretty good. He's got more makes than he misses.
Sequels. If he keeps making sequels, he doesn't miss.
Ooh. When's his last original one that's been a hit?
Top Gun 3 coming up.
Night and day.
Live, Die, Repeat.
So Top Gun not good is what JD said.
No.
Is that what you said? Top Gun Maverick is the worst movie you've ever seen.
I wish, but no.
No.
Because if Top Gun Maverick was the worst movie I've ever seen, I've seen excellent movies for all my life.
That's truth right there. Well, gentlemen, let's move on to our ratings. As a reminder, we rate our movies from 1 to 5 masks. The 5 being the best, 1 being the worst. So just to remind our listeners where we are at with our masks, the first movie, Mission Impossible, Mike and I were the only ones on the episode. We gave it 4 masks each. MI2, Zach, our guest, gave it 4 masks. Mike gave it 2.5 masks. I gave it 3 masks. MI3, all 3 of us, Jim, our guest, myself, and Mike, gave it 4.5 masks. Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol, Daniel, our guest, gave it 4.5. Mike gave it 4.5, and I gave it 4. And Mission Impossible Rogue Nation, Andy gave it 3.5. I gave it 4, and Mike gave it 4. Now we have 2 guests here to rank Fallout. Gentlemen, what is your rankings? We'll start with JD. 1 out of 5 masks.
I'll give it 4 plus 1 Henry Cavill bicep pump.
I like that. Justin?
I'm going to give it a solid 4.5.
Ooh, 4.5. Michael?
This is a 5 masks.
Ooh, this is a 5. This is a 5.
I believe that not only is this the best Mission Impossible movie in the franchise, it's legitimately maybe the greatest action movie I've ever watched.
Wow.
Oh.
JD, your thoughts?
Well, I mean, we can devolve into talks about John Wick, but
Ooh.
I'm not going there.
Speaking of JD, I know you're a Wick head over there. Did you notice that the when he's driving the motorcycle in the Champ d'Alliance in the roundabout in Paris, did you think about the John Wick 4 sequence there?
Yes. And I mean, again, we could go on and on about John Wick. Maybe that'll be a different series. Who knows?
Ooh.
But it's definitely the best Mission Impossible series or movie. To say it's the best action movie, that's ooh.
I mean,
that's tough.
we gotta get into the Transformers movies. That's what I'm saying.
I think there's
Face Off.
I think there's for raw power action movies. This is definitely in the top tier. But I think Harrison Ford has a couple of films that might beg to differ.
All right.
Which it goes back to the start where Tom Cruise and Harrison Ford still leading the box office charge here at the summer of 2023. It's incredible.
That's good.
I love it. I'm gonna give it a 4.5 as well. I'm with Justin. I think it's right up there with the best. I'm not gonna give it a full 5. I think it's a pretty intense movie. I think it's missing a little bit of. It doesn't have as much. I don't know.
You're just trying to be.
I'm just trying to be different.
Center.
I think there could have been a little bit more comedy. There's not as much. Like I do like the comedic sequences. I think it was missing a little Jeremy Renner. I'm gonna say, and there's a little spice Jeremy Renner adds to the franchise.
I think if you add Jeremy Renner, it overshadows Cavill, and
I understand why they didn't do it for this movie, but I don't know if he's gonna come back. He might. It would
he's
be
not billed.
Well. You never know. You never know. All right, gentlemen, before we light this fuse and self-destruct, any final thoughts on Fallout as we moved into Dead Reckoning coming out in a couple of weeks?
Live watch party, ?
We're going to see it in theaters and discuss afterwards. JD, we might have to tune you in as a call-in. We're going to see it the Friday. So listeners, we're going to probably record on the Friday of opening weekend. If I can turn it around, we'll get it out. Maybe by that Monday, Sunday, maybe Tuesday. We'll see how life turns out. But did you get excited about this? Like what's coming up, JD? After rewatching this?
Yeah, because again, Tom Cruise sequels just get better and better. I mean, I agree with Mike in the sense that 6 is the best Mission Impossible by far, and so I have high hopes for 7. Maybe they're going to disappoint me, but let's see what happens.
Justin, thoughts on Fallout and as we move forward in the franchise?
Yeah, I mean, just piggybacking off of JD, I think it is hard to try to reach farther than Fallout, but knowing Tom and what he's done with Ethan and what he continues to do with all of his stunts, I feel like he's going to continue to push the limits, and I feel like it's just going to be even more special.
I agree. I agree.
We haven't had a preview episode or anything. We really have not talked about Dead Reckoning, and as it's been said multiple times in this podcast, I have not seen the trailer.
Yeah,
but knowing that they tend to name the movies, kind of subtly in a nod towards the direction that they're going to go.
Right.
Dead Reckoning is a naval term. So I'm kind of hoping that there's a naval component to this.
Some more on the water.
An actual submarine kidnapping?
I don't know. I don't know. Just something.
I can see that.
I think something at sea or something involving water.
We really haven't done a ton of water stuff. We've done that underwater dive sequence in the last film, but they're not like on open water. That I'm
There's Tom Cruise where he held his breath for like 4 minutes.
Yeah, that was in a tank, but not like
in Rogue Nation, was it?
Yeah, but not like on the water.
There was also in either I think it was the 4th movie where him and Jeremy Renner are underwater for a moment, and he's throwing bodies out with flares in them.
Yeah.
But you're right. Water, not a huge part of the franchise.
Yeah, it could be. I think it's really important in this movie that we wrap up the Julia storyline, and I'm looking at more from a storytelling standpoint. The stunts are going to be amazing, but from a storytelling standpoint, the Julia storyline's kind of wrapped up. I don't think you bring her back in any way. So it's really about Ilsa. It's Ilsa and Ethan, and I think that dynamic is going to play into it. I also think we are going to lose a very, very key important member of the MIF team in this next one.
Just keep an eye out for very cheesy lines like, you guys are like brothers to me.
Yeah. I'm so happy to be on the team. I love it. I think we're going to lose somebody very important to Ethan that's not Julia in this next one. I feel like we're going to lose Luther. So I just have a feeling. With the dead, when I see Dead Reckoning, I think there's like someone dies and there's like Ethan has a reckoning. So We'll see. Well, gentlemen, thank you so much. This has been a pleasure. I'm glad we got this to happen after much planning and hope and joy. Even though hope is not a strategy, hope is my life, and
it's all we have.
It's all we have, and this group is all we have.
I'll be here all week.
You guys are like brothers to me.
And Mike is no longer the co-host.